Hi, Sue Ellam here, and I am a professional tarot reader and have been for about 25 years. And I use a mythic tarot, which is based on Greek mythology.
Hi, I'm Carrie Beleno. I am an intuitive Reiki master teacher and a spiritual life coach also for 20 some years. And I have the questions that we're giving a practical direction for helping humanity in this major transition that we are in. So I want this one stuck. How do I not fear change? We just, of course, had discussion on fear, so interesting.
How do I not talking?
Art imitates life.
Interesting. The first card that comes up is about getting stuck. So we fear change because we think we're going to make a mistake. And then when we think we're going to make a mistake, we think, oh, it hasn't worked out the way I expected it to, and do I cut my losses or do I just put up with the situation? It's a bit like, somebody gets into an unhappy marriage and they kind of think, well, you made your bed, you've got to lie in it now, you're kind of stuck. The problem with this is that when things don't work out right, often it's because we haven't actually looked at things clearly enough. You look at changing your job and you think, oh, my one isn't so bad at the moment. Maybe the other one won't work out. But then when you look at it through rose-colored glasses and you suddenly you imagine that you're going to become like, you're going to be able to kind of get up the kind of ladder and actually run the company one day. But if you looked at it clearly, you'd know that your particular skill set wasn't going to allow that to happen. It was only ever going to get to a certain stage. So it's when we make changes and we have a kind of a fantasy idea about what is going to happen, rather than kind of really being practical and saying, is this relationship, is this job, is this change I'm going to make, is it actually what I really think it's going to be? There's so many cases here in the UK where people have been to a seaside town on holidays and they've loved it, and then they go and retire there, and they have to go through the winter where nobody visits, and it's a completely different experience, and they've only remembered the few weeks they've spent there on holiday, but they don't look at the place, what facilities are open during the winter, etc. So the fear of change can be quelled if whatever changes you think of you're going to make are actually based in fact, in reality, what is going to come from it. And follow your intuition. This is the power. The high priestess is the power of the intuition, allowing it to guide you. And with intuition, it's not talking about emotion, kind of letting the emotions guide you. It's that gut feeling. I mean, I can say to you, well, do you want to go and live? Do you want to live in America? Do you want to live in the UK? Would you like to live in Australia? And something I say will say, oh, this sounds like a good idea. Your body will react to it, and your heart will tell you what your direction is. But often we think, oh, well, no, can I get a job there? And what we do is we talk ourselves out of it before we've even started. So we ignore our intuition. So any changes you're thinking of making, just ask yourself the question, will I be happy here 5 years' time? Is it really the relationship that I think is going to going to flourish? or, do I feel completely comfortable? We have to ask the questions. We have to be brutally honest with ourselves before we start making those changes, unless, assuming that situation you're in isn't that bad, and it's not a kind of life-death situation. Here we have, you get the rewards for the efforts you make. So if you do your homework before you make the change, you have no reason to fear that change, because you've got a pretty good idea where it's going to lead you. Okay, obviously life throws curveballs, and there's some things that we can't anticipate, but a lot of times we can have a good idea of what we're getting into. And if you do the homework, you have no reason to fear change. You will get the rewards for the efforts you make. And then it's time to come out of your comfort zone, jump off the cliff into the unknown, not knowing exactly where you're going to go. But it is all about being mentally prepared as well. Be prepared to take a few risks, but be educational about it. Put your head on when so they become calculated risks rather than jumping off the ship not knowing if there's a lifeboat nearby. So just as I said about change, if you demystify it, and if you look at it closely enough, then you won't necessarily make any mistakes. And it's a fear of making mistakes that cause people not to want to change. So those are the cards.
Well, thank you. I have two different trains of thought going on my paper here intuitively, and so I'm not sure if they're connected, but I need to share them both. So when I get up in the morning, I always ask if there's a message for me today. Is there something that I need to write about? Is there something I need to talk about? And I woke up this morning with the sentence, "What do you fear?" And not coincidentally that we got this question today. And I've talked about this a lot. I've talked about this in my Facebook Lives. I've talked about this. I've written about this in blogs. I'm sure I have podcast episodes about it. So it comes up a lot. Fear comes up a lot. But when I woke up with that, it was the reminder of every single side is based in fear. Like so there's a lot of sides right now in America. And if you look closely at each side, the proponents are typically based in fear. So I wrote down a couple of things. So people fear their rights being taken away. So they are adamant, let's say gun control. So they're adamant against gun control. So that's because they have a fear of having their rights taken away. But the people who advocate for gun control have a fear of being overrun by people with guns or being killed, accidentally. So both sides have fear. So it's really important that we take a look at where our fears are lying around change, because every aspect is going to have a fear. It's our job to make sure that we don't buy into the fears as we're moving through the change. And one of the ways that I tell people to do this when I'm working one-on-one is to not think too far out. So it's kind of incorporating that intuition thing, that gut thing that you were just talking about, Sue, but not projecting yourself too far out. So let's say you are unhappy with your job, and let's say you have an idea about something that you may want to do, but it's very scary. It's scary to quit your job. It's scary to think about yourself in this new job. And that's because we're projecting the ideas out too far. So you have a vision that this job that you're in isn't right anymore. So you've got to take those baby steps. You have to lay those pavers to get to that far out place. So you've determined that your job isn't right for you anymore. Okay, so what's next? Updating your resume. What's next? Talking to different people in different jobs, seeing what's out there, starting to network a little bit. You've got to take it closer in to you before you project all the way out, and use your intuition at each one of these steps. Well, does my resume feel right now? Okay, these people, are these the right people to be talking to? Okay, this network fair, is this a good place for me to be? Like asking your intuition at every, and in Sue's right, not necessarily the emotional intuition, more the gut intuition, as we analyze and get to that far away spot that seems really scary. But I think the connection between these two ideas is to realize that all the sides have fear. It's our job to rise above it. So staying in your current job has fear, and going out there has fear. Because that's how we're programmed, unfortunately. And I think that's one of the things Sue and I are really trying to do, is help deprogram humanity from all of the fear that we are raised with, that we are bombarded with in media, that we are taught, and to try to move purposefully and intuitively through life.
What you were saying is just triggered a memory for me. Many years ago, I was going to go off and do something. I was going to move to Portugal. I didn't speak the language and I didn't have a job there, but it was just something that I felt I needed to do. But I had a job in London, which I could have continued on ad infinitum. But my body, I thought, okay, what if I stayed in my job? And the feeling of depression that kind of came over me, the thought of just not going off and doing something different, but staying where I was, it was palpable. I felt trapped. I felt, I can't do this. It was like brought up, I mean, panic is too strong a word, but if we listen to what our bodies are telling us, we get to where what we're meant to be doing, even if it's meant to be scary, if it's scary. So if you're in a situation that seems not okay, you think, well, do I want to be here in a couple of years' time? Is this something I really want? And your body will tell you, if you're listening.
Which is exactly what happened to me, and why I got the phone call from my Yoda, because my body was telling me for months, if not years, that I wasn't in the exact right place for me. And I didn't listen, kept getting sick, kept getting injuries, until finally I got that wake up call, because we need to listen.
And we're much happier now.
Yes, for sure. For sure.
So take us as examples.
Yeah. And call us if you need us.
Absolutely. We're here. Anyway, I hope that's answered the question. And so it's bye from me.
And we'll see you tomorrow. Please share this video and like and subscribe.
Okay, bye.